Hi, and welcome back to Purple Collar Life. Today is a beautiful fall day. I posted a picture this morning of what it looks like after a frost, and our maple trees have just changed leaf color to that brilliant bright red, so it looks amazing. But today's project, you can see I've got the John Deere in the garage. Let me tell you what we're doing. I've got the John Deere here in the garage today for an oil change and some maintenance. I use this tractor all the time. I know it's been a little while since you've seen it on the channel, but this is the piece of machinery that I walk out and start up almost every single day because I'm doing something with it. Usually involves the front end loader, either doing some bucket work or doing some, putting the pallet forks on it to move some firewood around. There's always something going on that I'm using this tractor for. So the hours go up a little bit at a time as I use it, and even though I haven't reached the 200-hour interval for an oil change, this time of year, right now in the fall, is my favorite time to change oil because it means I'm doing it when it's still decently warm outside. I'm not crawling underneath the tractor out in the freezing cold here in the garage that isn't heated. So we're doing this oil change now so that this is all set for winter and next summer. The oil change service interval on this is every 200 hours. We are currently at 651 hours. I believe the last time we did an oil change, we were at about 520-ish hours, 525. So yes, we're not up to that 200-hour mark, but it has been enough time, and it's preparing for winter time where we'll be plowing snow. Wanted to make sure we get the oil change done now. After we complete the maintenance on the John Deere 2210, I want to talk to you about a problem I'm having that I've never had before. This thing is stalling out. We're going to talk about why. There's a little quick sneak preview of a video that's coming up. We'll go ahead and get started here. This is the John Deere 2210. It has the Yanmar diesel engine in it. This is very similar to if you have the 2305. These tractors were almost identical, some slight differences. The hood latch is down here. Just pull down. Hood lifts up. And you push this little bracket back, it holds it up in place. This oil change is easier to do if the front end loader is not on the tractor, but I need it right back on there to do more dirt work today. So it's possible to do it just a little bit tighter squeeze. The next step, we want to pull up on this side panel and remove it. It just slides up out. And that gives us access. So here's the oil fill, here's the dipstick, and the oil drain is down underneath. I'll show you that. Early on in the channel, I did 5 things that I don't like about the John Deere 2210. One of them was, anytime you're leaning over here, even to fill with fuel, you're leaning over top of where this grease pin is from the loader. Wouldn't you know it, my good Purple Collar Life shirt got grease all over the front of it. In a previous video, somebody left a tip to drape something over top of that. That's a great tip. I should have done that. Put a rag here and let a little light on the subject so you can see what we're working on. Looking down in here, there's that oil fill that I mentioned, the yellow cap. The filter is down here. The dipstick is right here. Not the easiest to get to. It's kind of up against this tank, and you can actually see what's happening. The dipstick is cutting into, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but there's a groove right there. That's from the dipstick handle cutting into the side of the coolant reservoir, which I see is a little bit low, so we'll add antifreeze to the reservoir while we're here. Grab the socket wrench. I believe we are 14 millimeters for that drain plug, which is down here underneath the tractor. So if you're looking down here, that yellow bolt is the oil pan drain plug. You'll find it just to the side of the drive shaft that's going to the front axle. And I've got my drain pan here, ready to drain the oil. If I remember from last time, it shoots out pretty good, so I moved my light and my camera so that hopefully they don't get doused with motor oil. Motor oil is great for the engine, not great for my camera. You need an oil pan that holds about 2 quarts. And a socket and the drain plug if you drop those. This is also a good time to take a look at the undercarriage of the tractor. I can see one of my control wires is hanging down here. Actually could get caught in that drive shaft when it's spinning, so I need to tighten that up with some wire ties. I'll pull it back where it's supposed to go just to keep it from coming in contact with that or any other brush that's in the woods. You know, you catch a stick or something on that, it could pull it right down from where it's at. Take a look back at the rest of the machine. There's my hydraulic oil filter. That will be a project for another day, replacing all the hydraulic oil. And this filter, you can see this filter is in a position where, especially without the motor deck on, it can make contact with mud, and ours has. It really would be good if there'd be a protective shield over top of that, but there's not. So we'll change that filter and that oil out on another video some other day. Today is just about the engine oil and getting the coolant ready, checking over everything. Now that the oil is drained, the next step is the filter. You can see the oil filter's right here. Again, we're still on the side of the engine that has the oil fill. And I'm going to see if I can just twist that out by hand. There we go. Sheer determination. There's our filter that came out. That's a John Deere M806418. Put our new filter on. Now, I've mentioned in a previous video how much I like the Amsoil oils and filters. I much rather would have put an Amsoil filter in there, but I just happened to have a John Deere one in stock. Wasn't planning on doing this oil change today. So what I'll do is I'll go to the website that I'm going to list down in the description below for Clovis Lubricants, and I'll be able to place an order using the oil filter cross-reference guide. It tells me exactly what filter replaces this John Deere filter just by part number. It's a really awesome tool and an easy way to find the Amsoil equivalent to the OEM filter part number. So when I put that John Deere part number for the oil filter in, it tells me that the Amsoil number is EA15K12. So that's the oil filter you need to order for the John Deere tractor. The nice thing about the Amsoil oil filters are the synthetic media, which lets a lot more oil pass through them. It's a much higher quality product in the filter, so it not only filters better, but it allows the oil to pass through better, because you know oil flow through the filter and throughout the engine is a very important part of a diesel engine operation, any engine in general, but diesel engines especially. So I'm going to be using the commercial grade 15W40. This is 2 times wear protection. Commercial grade by Amsoil is a synthetic blend that's more than 50% synthetic oils. And as you know, the difference in oils isn't really about the base oil, but it's about all the additives. So that's what I like about the Amsoil quality, is the highest quality additives you can put into the oil. And that's why I bought this big, huge jug of the 2.5 gallons, and I've used this in our Ford 8N tractor, I've used it in the Ford Workmaster, and now I'm going to be using it here in the John Deere. If you've got a fleet of vehicles, this is a great option because you can get it in these big jugs. You can also get it in 55-gallon drums or even IBC totes. If you wanted to extend your oil change interval beyond the OEM recommendation, you'd want to go with the Signature Series. This particular commercial grade oil is made for the intervals recommended by the manufacturer, in this case the Yanmar engine in the John Deere tractor. Another thing I wanted to show you is the normal 1-quart bottles. You can put this cool flow tube on to easily dispense the oil out in small amounts. This twists to start and stop the flow of the oil. So that's a great thing to put on these. They actually make these for the bigger jugs also, but they're out of stock right now. So what I will be doing, and I showed in a previous video, I've got this Funnel King bottle that I will fill up 1 quart at a time. This John Deere tractor takes 2.5 quarts, so we'll fill this up 2.5 times. Take the oil fill cap off. This Funnel King, you just pop the cap off of the fill side here. Drains in pretty slow. Quart number 2. Like I said, this process is a bit easier without the loader on because you've got then complete open access to the whole side of the engine, but it's doable with the loader on. Just a little bit of, going over top of the loader arms for everything. The towel's helping me not get my sweatshirt any more greasy. I watch videos with other people doing work and I see them come out completely unscathed, no dirt on their clothes, and I think, boy, every time I wear clothes out to do a video of my work, I end up ruining the clothes I'm wearing. If you've got any good clothes washing tips to get grease off of a sweatshirt, leave them in the comments down below. Here you can see last half, so that gives us 2.5 quarts that we're putting in the engine here. Put this cap back on, and we want that to drain down through the crankcase and into the oil pan completely before we check the level. So I've got the dipstick in for now, and then we'll pull it out and check it. But while we're here, we might as well top off the coolant. Now this hasn't been running, so we're going to check it in 2 places. We're going to check it in the radiator. You always want to make sure that's cool before you open it. And then we're also going to fill the reservoir. So we'll make sure that it is full of coolant in both spots. In case you didn't know, antifreeze is diluted, so this is pre-diluted. It's also toxic, so you wouldn't want to spill this and then not clean it up. Yeah, we needed antifreeze for sure. So we'll make sure we clean that up off the floor because that is toxic to animals. We don't have a whole lot left in here to put into that. Fill it up to the fill line on the side of the tank. Put that back on the side, and hopefully that's not leaking out where this dipstick is making contact with it. But we're going to pull the dipstick out, give it a good wipe. There are the hash marks we want to be between. You can see them on the camera there. What I found with diesel oil dipsticks is that the tube gets so full of the black old diesel oil that it's hard to get a good read. But there we are. We are within, actually we're a little bit over the hash mark range. Right there's the end of the hash mark, right there's the end of our fill. But we haven't started the tractor up yet to pump that oil through the oil filter. So we'll do that here in a minute. I just want to check the air filter while we're here. And the air filter is located right here. To get that off, there are 2 clips. Both clips pull to the side. Down here at the air filter canister, you can see this rubber strap running over top. You can pull that rubber strap down and release it. It's got a hold on the canister. We'll just put that aside on top of the muffler for now because our engine's not hot. That allows us to wiggle this around to be able to get the cap off and pull the air filter out to give it a good look. I keep spare parts in stock all the time, so I do have a new air filter for this. This is a John Deere M113621. I'll put an Amazon affiliate link down below to this air filter. You can see it's nice and clean. And this one was due for replacement. Big difference. The filter on. Put the cap back on. I like to have this breather hole facing down, and it's hard to twist it once it's onto the filter, so kind of get it situated before you place it on. You can see this cover says top. You want that to face up, so if you can see the word top right there. Got it lined up. Put our clamps back on. Just like that. Put our seat belt back on it here to hold it in place when the engine's running. Make sure you don't pinch any of the hoses. I wanted to point out a couple things to you. First of all, this hose comes from the thermostat and goes to our Curtis cab heater. And I noticed that I'm getting a little bit of a rub on it from the side panel because it has to go over top and then down here below. So I just want to make sure that I'm keeping that clean and not rubbing so much that it's going to make a hole in it. So I'm thinking about getting almost like a pool noodle to cover this up. It would push it in a little bit, but it would keep it from rubbing. I'm afraid it's going to rub a hole in it right there, and then we would lose a lot of antifreeze that way. This is another part of the job that is much easier without the loader on, because you've got to line up the pins on the bottom. I see one right there. Okay. And then the top pins, one's right here, one's back here at the back, 1, 2, also need lined up. So we need to, at the same time we're pushing in on the top, push in on the bottom to get the pins all lined up. It sounds like we got it, but you can see right where that hose is rubbing on this metal piece of the side panel of the engine. And that is where I want to get some, like a pool noodle, or maybe even just, I think for now I'll put a piece of electrical tape here just to protect that a little bit more from rubbing. We'll wrap the hose with some electrical tape first. Yeah, that'll help. And then I'm just going to put a piece on this metal. It probably won't stick for all that long, but at least it makes the sharp edge not quite so sharp. Now, as you saw, I like to order ahead and have stuff in stock, so I'm going to go ahead and order my new air filter right now. now is also the perfect time to go to that Clovis Lubricants link that I'll have down below in the description and order the Amsoil oil, and I'll use the Amsoil oil filter in the future. So I'll go ahead and place those orders now so that I have those parts on the shelf for the next time I'm needing to do the oil change here in the tractor. I found it's always better to have them in stock, because then when you're ready to do it, you already have all the supplies you need, rather than figuring you want to do the oil change today but you don't have the right stuff to do it. You end up going out to the store and getting a cheaper oil, a cheaper filter, and not treating your equipment right. So always better to order them in advance. I'll put that Clovis Lubricants Amsoil link down below in the description. You can hear I've got the John Deere 2210 running, and it purrs great now. Actually, with this Yanmar engine, I can tell when it needs an oil change by the sound of it. So it wasn't up to 200 hours yet, but maybe because I ran it so hard, moving so much dirt this summer, it was ready for an oil change. It was starting to make like that knocking noise, and as soon as I hear that, I know this tractor's ready for some fresh lifeblood. So that's why I did the oil change in it today. It wasn't on my project list for today, but I want to protect that Yanmar engine in this John Deere machine, so I took care of it with some good oil, and it should last me throughout the winter and the springtime before I need to worry about an oil change again. Most likely clear until next winter. So like I said, you can hear the difference, but the reason this is running right now is because I run it for about a minute, and then we're going to check the hydraulic fluid level. We'll talk to you about that as soon as we're done running this. 651 hours. Now I mentioned we are going to change the hydraulic fluid and the hydraulic filter on this probably in the spring. I don't know that we'll get to that before winter time, but what you want to do is you want to run it for about a minute like I did, have all your implements down. That means the front bucket down, the 3-point hitch down, and you want your oil level to be in the visual area here, about the 2/3 level, but definitely not so far down that it's below the halfway point. Now I can actually see the color of that hydraulic fluid is a little bit more yellow than it was a while ago, so it probably is ready to be changed out. If you judged oil by color, I know that's not the best way to do it, but I can visually see a difference in the color of that oil, which tells me it's probably due to be changed. Now ours is just about at the top. I see just a little bit of daylight above the oil in there. So it's about as high as you'd want it to be. You don't want to overfill it, but you also don't want it to be underneath the halfway mark. Like I said, about 2/3 is perfect. Okay, so we put fresh oil and a filter in it. We put a fresh air filter in it, so we know it's getting clean, fresh oil. We know it's getting clean, fresh air. The next thing we want to talk about is fuel. Now, especially as we get into wintertime, I want to make sure I've got good fuel in this machine. I have mentioned before the Shore can. This makes it much easier to dispense fuel, diesel fuel, into both this tractor and the Takeuchi Mini X. This is one of the things I always like to leave an Amazon affiliate link down below in the description, because I like it so much, I think there's a good chance that you guys might like it also. But what I want to talk about is what I do to prepare the fuel in this can before it goes in a machine. That's where I use the Amsoil diesel injector clean. Now the reason I like to put this in the tank is because this whole bottle would do 20 gallons. My machines, I only fill 5 gallons at a time typically. So I put 2 ounces of this bottle into the 5-gallon tank, fill it up with 5 gallons of fuel, and then I've got treated diesel fuel ready to go in the John Deere tractor or the Takeuchi Mini X. Now why I like to use this stuff is because, and you can read it right on the bottle, I'll put a picture, it's going to clean the injectors. You know, a machine like this and the Takeuchi, they get run for hours at a time. Unlike a car that goes to, you know, get serviced and maybe gets the diesel injectors cleaned over time, this doesn't really get serviced unless it breaks down. So using something like this to protect and extend the life of the engine, I think is important. So it cleans dirty injectors, lubricates the pumps and injectors to reduce wear, extends fuel filter life, improves fuel economy up to 8%, restores power and torque, reduces smoke and emissions, helps prolong time between EGR and DEF regenerations. Now this tractor and my Takeuchi don't have the DEF necessities, and they don't do a regeneration cycle. That's one of the things I like about the under 26 horsepower engines in both this and the Mini X. Combats fuel system corrosion, reduces downtime and maintenance costs, safe for use in all diesel fuels, including biodiesel, and it's alcohol free. So like I said, this is an 8-ounce bottle. I'll put the Clovis lubricant link down below in the description. You can also get this from Mark at Amsoil. That's what that link is for. I put only 2 ounces at a time in a 5-gallon jug. You can see this thing is filled. I can't even lift it with just my left arm. Like I mentioned, the fall is my favorite time to get oil changes done. You see a lot of oil change videos lately on the channel, and that's because I like to do it before it gets too cold. I like to get that stuff all taken care of before wintertime. I used a 15W40 and the John Deere 2210 in the diesel engine, the same oil that I use in my Ford Workmaster and in the Ford 8N tractor. It's nice to be able to buy the same oil for all 3 tractors. Just is nice to have it on the shelf. Like I said, I buy in advance so that I have it for when projects are needed. Now there's one other thing I'd like to get taken care of before wintertime, but I'm not sure how to go about it. I'm hoping you guys have an idea. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Now I think this is a common problem, but my 2210, the seat now falls out. So you can see the seat pan here evidently originally had some type of adhesive or something. Well, that's gone, and this foam doesn't stay seated in here. And I could probably buy a whole new seat and replace it, and I'm not unwilling to do that. But first I wanted to reach out to you guys, any of you who have John Deere equipment who have had this issue, because I know this has happened on some of the older garden tractors also. They use the same seat, like the 2003 to 2007 time frame, maybe a little bit before and after that. But what have you done if the foam section of your seat has come out of the pan? I've been thinking about using like Gorilla Glue or something, adhesive, to just try to get it to stick, but you'll never get these edges stuck back into the pan the right way. So I'm wondering if you guys recommend a replacement and who that replacement you would get from, or a way to fix it. I mentioned earlier in this video that it has been stalling out lately, and it never did that before. That's a little bit of a tricky statement because I know exactly why it's stalling out. I've been doing a lot of dirt work lately, and previously in the slime and the clay and the mud that's around our house, whenever I'd get into the pile, I could just push and push and push, and all 4 wheels would spin, but it would never stall out. Well, I am really liking these new tires, these Carlstar Versa Turf. I did a video about those. I'll put a link up above. But these things are stalling out my tractor. In 2-wheel drive, I can push into a pile, and they get so much traction that the tractor will actually stall out before it spins the tires. So I'm not saying you can't spin these, but compared to the R4 tires I had on before this, that would spin pretty easily and there was no chance of stalling out the tractor, now I'm finding that because I'm so used to being able to break free and spin, when I push into the pile and I think I'm just gonna keep pushing or spin and get stuck, these tires grab, the hydraulic winds to a halt, and this thing stalls out. So yes, it is stalling out now, but yes, I know exactly why. It's because these tires are so awesome. Some of you left questions about how was I liking the tires so far. I love them. And I'm definitely going to get the same things on the front as soon as those ones wear out, or as soon as I find the need to get rid of them. Thanks for watching this video today about some unscheduled routine maintenance on our John Deere 2210. Like I said, once I start hearing that engine noise where the engine's telling me it's ready for fresh oil, I stop what I'm doing and I change that oil. Now the book says every 200 hours. I've found with my use, 200 hours is a couple years. So we get to about this point where it starts to make that noise at 150-ish hours or so, and I go ahead and change the oil. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative and entertaining, give us a big thumbs up. Leave those comments down below, tips, things I didn't think of, replacement seats, and hopefully we'll see you again the next time. What is that? Is that cracked? Is that cracked? Ooh, looks like weather checking. Might be time to get rid of these tires.